the 2000s, programs like Disney ran my entire childhood. I'm talking I had all the merch they sold, Disney-themed birthday parties on many occasions, and so much more. I wasn't the only one either. I mean, who wouldn't love Disney back then? They brought shows like Wizards of Waverly Place, That's So Raven, Hannah Montana, just to name a few, to life. Best believe you couldn't go a day watching TV without hearing or seeing these shows. It simply captivated little kids, teenagers, and even some adults alike. They had everything for everybody at the time, and it was so successful that it ran everything. And I mean everything. So what exactly has happened to Disney in these past couple years? As a once avid Disney kid to the core, I can say through the years I've noticed Disney has changed so much. More noticeably in recent years, it hasn't put up the same numbers or reached the expected shock value as it has in the past. Numbers have gone down and people are giving up on Disney as their material is losing their originality and losing its touch here. A part of this I want to say is because Disney is seemingly losing their core audience. I get that times are different, and because of those differences, TV programs have learned to adapt or even change for their growing audience. Yet it's so clear Disney is still struggling with this concept today. So in this video, I will be focusing on what exactly went wrong with Disney. Why are they not connecting with people anymore as they have in the past? And will Disney have a chance to redeem itself with releases coming out such as Inside Out 2 in a couple days and Moana 2 later this fall? Old Disney is something that we can never get rid of and something that even now I long for. Nostalgia factor plus iconic movies, TV shows, and characters is something that Disney hasn't brought to the table in a couple years. A good example of Disney at its peak would be High School Musical. This franchise had just about everyone in a chokehold back in the 2000s, and dare I say, still reigns just as impactful with memes and pop culture today. This was simply Disney at its peak. It not only had fans amazed over in the US, this was a global phenomenon. This franchise had people raging all the way down to Australia, all the way up to Japan. So what exactly made it so good? We could talk about the numbers it pulled from the first day it premiered, reining in 7.7 million viewers for the first airing. In my opinion, it did well because the directors knew that Disney needed something new. They did that in the right way. They brought new content and material to the table. The directors knew what they were doing as the message resonated with a lot of teens past and present, making characters like Troy Bolton, played by Zac Efron, who was a star basketball player but had his heart set on being in the play Twinkletown with Gabriella. He had a choice to conform to what everyone else wanted him to be, such as his fellow basketball players / friends and his dad, where it would be comfortable, or he could take a step out of his comfort zone, face the judgment and even criticism for something that he wanted to do. We see him battle this concept with the song Stick to the Status Quo, among many others, and I think a lot of people can understand that feeling. I know I can. In high school, there's a lot of pressure on young teens because the decision of the future now relies on them. So what if they don't pick something that their parents wanted for them, or what society automatically picks for them says they should do? Imagine how it must have felt when Disney made a movie that described exactly how those teens were feeling, and I myself still do. I can say it resonated with me personally as I see myself in these characters being a teenager now. Disney made the movie easy to understand, easy to relate to, easy to enjoy. It was something you could get up and dance to with songs like Get Your Head in the Game, We're All in This Together, and What I've Been Looking For, among many others. It never strayed from the original message. So big, Sharpay from the movie, played by Ashley Tisdale, even got her own spin-off movie that did exceptionally well. And it even got a whole series based on them, High School Musical, the series years later, which I dare say this movie was so impactful that almost everybody growing up in the 2000s, the 2010 era where these movies were coming out, thought when they were going to go to high school, it was going to be exactly like in the movies. I thought high school was going to be exactly like that, and I was not the only one who fell victim to this. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but the message shown through these movies, especially the first movie, is one I appreciate and completely understand, even being a teenager now. So if Disney had such an impact in the past and it was doing all this stuff and bringing in exceptional value wise and had fans loving every second of it, why is Disney not doing that now? And if they're going to in their rebrand or new era, then is it possible? Can they make a comeback? Disney's rebrand is not working. In fact, it's almost JoJo Siwa level bad. The lack of quality for their shows is definitely there. And I don't know why, but no one in the writer's room seems to think, hey, instead of live actions and redoing old shows, maybe we should come up with something new. It's almost like they won't allow that to happen. Now, I know Disney isn't the same Disney I grew up with, but the amount of looking I had to do to see what Disney has been up to these past couple years is insane to me. Excluding shows like The Owl House and Percy Jackson, because those did really well. Disney made a couple waves with those, but what about the other failed shows and movies? Looking it up, I was hit with a whole bunch of movies I had never even heard of. Because what is Sneakerella? What is Under Wraps? And what is the Slumber Party? Like, either I was living under a rock or I just never heard these shows get promoted. Because what are these shows? There were so many more shows I can make a whole video on that alone. But it's sad because Disney is putting out so many low quality shows at a fast rate instead of writing good scripts to cater to a new audience. No, I'm genuinely confused why we need a Moana 2 and a live action. Like, why do we need both? And ever since Mulan's live action, I've been tired of them because I don't know what that was. It's like they're stuck in their comfort zone because either way they're making money. It's fast money though, and it won't last forever, so they need to tighten up now and fix things. And I don't know, maybe take a new chance on new material for once. I'm getting tired of the same old washed, stale content. Streaming services like Disney Plus are one of the main reasons Disney is slowly declining. They'll release movies and shows you know that didn't necessarily do well in theaters to still gain traction and build up their numbers. But regardless, people don't want to go to the movie theaters anymore anyway. At least not for Disney movies. So what's the point if it's going to be on streaming services in a couple days? Why would they want to go? A big part of this is because of COVID-19. This was one of the many things that COVID had shut down. Nobody could go out and everybody got used to just seeing streaming services and having everything they wanted on it. And no, I don't think Disney has given its audience a chance to relive and have that movie experience in theaters. Because before the whole virus, we had movies, specifically talking Marvel here, Endgame, Black Panther, and Infinity War, not in that order. And trust when I say, I remember going to those movies or even just hearing people going to the movies and hearing how such a great experience it actually was. It was something I felt like I was really included, and it brought together the whole Marvel fandom. And don't even get me started on the numbers that it pulled. So in that aspect, they failed. I know it's been 4 years since the whole virus. So I know it affected TV productions, all things of that nature. But like they were putting out too much. And it was too much on their plate, so they couldn't handle it. Now they're just trying to do damage control, as my friend Mackenzie said, and it's not working. There's just not anything good like the old movies. And yeah, old Disney had good movies because they had good villains. We don't have any good villains anymore. I'm telling you, we need villains. We don't have anyone to root for, something to give the character more complexity. I remember Scar from The Lion King. Watching it as a kid, I cried, but watching it a little bit older, I'm like, I totally get where you're coming from. That's when I knew like villains were key to a good story sometimes. Like it just gave it so much more conflict. And in conflict, there's only so many things the other side can do, like the hero side. He shows how they act under pressure. And if I'm thinking about this number-wise, I think yes. And if I'm thinking about it logically and statistically, I also think there's potential for them to regain the status that they had, or at least hit the tip of the iceberg from it. By the time this is out, Inside 2 is already out, and reports are only saying good things. On its premiere day in theaters, it broke box office records for being the strongest global opening by animated film of all time. This gives me hope, and also that they'll stop releasing unnecessary stuff on Disney Plus. Would end there. So maybe I am just being a little foolish here because I really am holding on for Disney. Like this is really my last hope, because in a couple years I do want to say, oh, I'm still an avid Disney fan. You know, they had a little plateau at the COVID years and a couple years after that, but they got it back up. They stood on business, because as of right now, anything before 2019, like that was peak. That was just insanely good. Okay, has had me in the theaters bawling, had me in the theaters like, yeah, I love this, but anything after that, even movies that came after that, I'm like, oh. I am doubling down on my statement, and maybe in a couple years, maybe hopefully it won't take that long, I'll revisit this topic and see if Disney has done better. Okay, first off, I got sick halfway through the video, and this was recorded on different days, so that's why I kind of sound like that in the end. But also, if you stayed this long, thank you. with my thoughts out of the way, how do you feel Disney is gonna do? Like, are they gonna end up reaching 2019 Disney success with their quote-unquote rebrand, or will Disney just be something nostalgic that everyone after the 2010s and weren't born in 2010s they all forget? I really hope not. With all that being said, I'll see you guys next week for our next awaited Yap session. You guys have a blessed day or night. Bye, guys.